Nobody in that store knew they were being watched. Nobody knew the test had already started. And nobody, not one person, suspected that the trembling old man shuffling through the front door was about to destroy their careers, or save one. He moved slow, too slow. His coat was 2 sizes too big, gray and stained at the collar, the kind of coat that made people look away fast. His boots were scuffed past saving. His face was buried under a heavy beard, white at the edges, tangled in the middle. He kept his chin down and his shoulders folded inward, like a man the world had already finished with. His name was Marcus Hale, and he owned every single thing inside that building. Marcus hadn't always been this way, not the disguise, not the need for it. 3 years ago, he'd walked these same kinds of floors in a tailored suit, shaking hands, cutting ribbons, watching cameras flash. His face had been on magazine covers. His company, a national retail chain with over 200 locations, had been called one of the great American business success stories of the decade. Then the emails started coming in, not to his board, not to PR, but directly to him. Anonymous messages from customers describing how they'd been treated in his stores. Mocked. Dismissed. Made to feel invisible. One message from an elderly man in Ohio had stayed with Marcus for 6 months. They looked at me like I was something they needed to clean off their shoe. Marcus had ordered internal reviews, investigations, retraining programs. Nothing changed. So tonight, 1 hour before closing, he walked into location 47 in his old coat and his fake beard, with shaking hands and downcast eyes, to find out the truth for himself. The store was quiet at this hour. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. 2 employees stood behind the main service counter. A young man named Jake and another named Cody, both leaning against the back shelf, phones half raised, looking like they were waiting for the shift to end. At the far end of the counter stood a girl working alone. Her name tag said Maya. She was maybe 22, 23 at most. Her hair was pulled back, tired circles under her eyes that spoke of double shifts and too much coffee. But her posture was straight, and she was actually doing her job. Reorganizing a display case, focused, moving with quiet purpose in a way the other 2 clearly weren't. Marcus shuffled toward the counter. Jake noticed him first. His eyes moved from his phone to the old man's coat and stopped there. He said nothing, just leaned slightly toward Cody and tilted his head. Cody looked up, and something ugly crossed his face, quick but visible. Marcus kept moving. His voice came out thin and rough when he reached the counter. "Excuse me. Could I trouble you for a cup of water? My throat's been real dry." Jake and Cody didn't move. Maya looked up from the display case. She didn't hesitate. She didn't make a face. She just said, "Of course," and turned toward the back. Behind her, Cody let out a short breath, not quite a laugh, but not far from one. Jake picked up his phone again. Marcus watched everything. Maya brought the water in a clean cup, not a paper cone from the dispenser, but a proper cup filled to the top. She set it on the counter and pushed it toward him carefully, making sure it wouldn't tip. "Take your time," she said. Marcus reached for the cup. His hands were shaking. That part wasn't fake anymore. He wasn't sure when the performance had started bleeding into something real, but it had. He drank slowly. Behind Maya, Jake was talking in a low voice to Cody, but not low enough. "How long is this going to take?" Cody snorted. "Should have just said we were out." The words were soft. Marcus caught every syllable. He set the cup down carefully and said, in his weakest voice, "Thank you, miss. That was very kind." Maya nodded. "You need anything else?" He paused. This was the next part of the test. "I don't suppose," he started slowly, "there's any small thing I could help with. Sweeping, carrying boxes, anything. I haven't eaten since morning, and I was hoping maybe." He didn't finish the sentence. Jake cut across the store floor, moving now, his voice sharp and low. "Hey. Hey, man. I'm gonna have to ask you to move along. You're blocking the counter and we've got actual customers coming in." There were no other customers. The store was empty. Marcus looked down at the floor, nodded slowly, started to turn. "He's fine." Maya's voice was quiet, but it stopped the room cold. Jake looked at her. "Bree, he's fine." "He's fine," she said again, not louder, just clearer. He asked a question. "That's not blocking anything." A beat of silence. Jake walked back, but his face had changed. Something in it had hardened. Marcus stood very still. Maya looked at him, at his hands, his coat, his eyes. She seemed to be making a decision that the rules on the backroom bulletin board hadn't covered. "There's a small stock room around back," she said quietly. "Some boxes came in today that need to be broken down. If you can manage that, I can put something together for you to eat." Cody made a noise. Jake looked at the ceiling. Marcus nodded. "I can manage it." He worked for 20 minutes. The boxes were heavy enough that his arms genuinely ached by the end. He broke them down one by one, stacked them flat, tied them with the cord left on the shelf. He moved slowly, but he moved completely. And when he came back out, the job was done right. Maya was waiting. She had wrapped a sandwich and a bottle of juice in a paper bag, not scraps, not whatever was about to expire, but something she'd gone and selected herself from the food section. She held it out to him. "You earned it," she said simply. Behind her, Cody had drifted closer. His voice came out low, meant for Maya but loud enough that Marcus could hear. "You know you can get written up for this, right? Giving away store items without a purchase. Manager finds out, it's your job." Maya didn't answer him. She kept her eyes on Marcus and held the bag steady until he took it. He took it. His hands were no longer shaking, not from the performance, not from age, but from something in his chest that had gone very, very quiet. He looked at her face one more time. She knows the risk, he thought. She knows exactly what it could cost her, and she's doing it anyway. He turned toward the door. He took 4 steps, then he stopped. Something happened in that 4-step pause that Marcus hadn't planned for. He had run this kind of test before, twice at other locations, years ago. He'd gone in disguised, watched how his staff behaved, taken notes, made changes. It had always felt controlled, strategic, professional. This time it didn't feel like that. This time he stood near the exit of a fluorescent-lit store at 9:40 at night, holding a paper bag that a 20-something woman had packed for him, knowing it could get her fired. And something in his chest was doing something he hadn't budgeted for. He thought about his own mother. She'd worked in a store like this one, 3rd shift, sore feet, never complained. She'd once given her lunch to a man outside who said he was hungry, and gone the rest of that shift on black coffee and crackers from her purse. He hadn't thought about her in years. He reached up slowly, pulled off his cap. Then, with both hands, he peeled away the beard. The sound Cody made wasn't words. It was just air, like something had hit him in the stomach and pushed it all out. Jake dropped his phone. Maya went completely still. Marcus Hale turned around and faced the 3 of them with a clean, sharp face and calm eyes. He looked nothing like the man who had shuffled through the door 90 minutes ago. He stood straight. His voice, when he spoke, was low and even, and it carried across the entire empty store like a sound system being turned on. "My name is Marcus Hale. I own this company." Nobody spoke. The silence wasn't dramatic. It was just silence, the kind that comes when a room full of people suddenly understand that every word they've said in the last hour and a half has been heard, measured, and remembered. Jake's face went the color of dry concrete. Cody took a small step backward, his mouth opening, then shutting, then opening again with nothing coming out. Maya hadn't moved. Her hands were still at her sides. Her eyes were locked on Marcus's face, not with guilt, she didn't have any, but with a stunned, searching expression, like someone trying to recalibrate something they couldn't quite reach. Marcus looked at her. Then he looked at the other two. He let the quiet sit for a long time. "I came in tonight," he said finally, "because I've been getting messages from customers for 2 years, telling me how they feel when they walk out of my stores." He paused. "Tonight, I felt it myself." Jake opened his mouth. Marcus held up one hand. "Don't." He didn't say it loud. He said it the way a man says something when he means it absolutely and doesn't need volume to prove it. "There is nothing you can say right now that changes what I saw. What I heard." He turned to Jake. "You told a man in need to move along. There were no other customers. There was no reason." He looked at Cody. "You warned a young woman that doing the right thing was going to cost her job. And you hoped that would stop her." Neither of them looked up from the floor. It didn't stop her. Marcus turned back to Maya. She was still watching him. There was something in her expression now that was close to tears, but hadn't gotten there, like she was holding it back through pure stubbornness. "You gave me water," he said. "You defended me when you didn't have to. You gave me work because you understood that dignity matters more than policy. And you packed that bag knowing exactly what it could cost you." He stopped. "You were willing to lose your job to do the right thing for a stranger." He stepped closer. "That's not something I can ignore." He was quiet for a moment, just one moment, still almost gentle. And then he straightened up, and the weight of everything he'd decided came through clearly in his voice. He told Jake and Cody they would be placed on a mandatory performance review, effective immediately. He told them the review would be thorough. He told them what he expected from anyone who wore his company's name on their shirt. And he told them, simply and without cruelty, that the behavior he'd witnessed tonight was not something he had built this company to represent. Then he turned to Maya. "I'm creating a district oversight position. It's a role I've needed to fill for 2 years and haven't found the right person for." He looked at her directly. "I want someone who already knows what it looks like when a location is failing its customers. Someone who won't look the other way." He paused. "Someone who can't be warned off doing the right thing." Maya blinked. "You'd be moving up 5 levels, Marcus said. Salary, benefits, a direct line to my office. You'd oversee 6 locations in this region." He looked at her carefully. "I know you don't know me. I know this is sudden. But I watched you for 90 minutes tonight, and I think I know enough." She was quiet for a long moment. Her voice came out small when she finally spoke, but steady. "I wasn't doing it to get anything." "I know," Marcus said. "That's why I'm offering it." She accepted, not right away. She asked a question first, quiet and serious. Whether the people she'd be overseeing would be treated fairly, even when they were struggling. Whether they'd have a real chance to improve. Marcus looked at her for a moment, then said yes, and he meant it. Jake and Cody stood near the back of the store while Marcus and Maya exchanged contact information. Neither of them spoke. The store hummed around them. The lights didn't know anything had changed. But something had. Later that night, alone in his car in the parking lot, Marcus sat for a few minutes before starting the engine. He held the paper bag. He hadn't put it down since she'd handed it to him. He wasn't sure why, maybe because it was the first time in a long time that someone had handed him something with no idea what he was worth. No idea who he was. No angle. No performance. Just a sandwich and some juice, and a woman who decided that a person in need was worth the risk. He thought about his mother again, about the crackers and the black coffee, and the man outside who'd gotten her lunch. She'd never found out what happened to that man. She never knew if he'd been okay. She'd done it anyway. Something she used to say, "You do it because it's right, not because anyone's watching." Marcus set the bag on the passenger seat, started the car, and drove home through the quiet dark. And somewhere on the highway, alone at midnight, the most powerful man in the building started crying. Not from sadness. Not from guilt. From something rarer than either, the sudden, unexpected, overwhelming relief of finding out the world still had people like Maya in it. After everything, all the years, all the money, all the watching, that was the thing he hadn't known he needed. He'd walked into that store to test his employees. He hadn't expected to walk out changed himself. The job she took, the men who failed, none of that was the real story. The real story was a paper bag, and the fact that she'd handed it over anyway.